Here's another thing to consider when choosing your strategy. Because of the asymmetric economies of player 1 and player 2, sometimes a strategy will only win for one player or the other. Player 2 specializes in getting a conduit or animus on turn 2, which is often just much more efficient than when player 1 gets a conduit or animus on turn 2 or 3, because player 1 is stuck with too few drones on turn 2 tech purchases, and is stuck being a turn behind in damage with turn 3 tech purchases, with not enough other advantages to win. The technically most efficient opening could automatically be losing to the other player doing it first. With these things in mind, your strategy choice must be tailored to your starting position. I'm gonna show you 3 different ways to give yourself the best chance of winning when it seems like you have a set that doesn't favor you. In this set, your options are severely limited. Redeemer and Venge are too aggressive for long-term investments like Shadowfang and Reservoir to work. Then there's Thermite Core and Oxide Mixer, which don't really have any impact when the biggest absorber is Wall. So if we remove those units from the rest of the set, you're left with just Redeemer, Venge, Immolite, and Auric Impulse. Immolite is a rather weak attacker, so this set is inherently P2 favored, with P2 getting the better conduit openings. After coming to these conclusions, I asked myself what I could do as P1 to give myself the best chance of winning. The only reasonable answer here is to somehow involve an Animus. So here's how it worked out. To avoid getting destroyed by quick Redeemers, I started with the ugly and inelegant turn 3 Conduit and turn 4 Blast Forge opening, but got an Animus the turn he's gonna wanna buy as Redeemer, to set up a big burst of attack on the turn the charges are gonna come back to hit him. For the rest of the match, the red was spent slowly accumulating Immolites, which isn't too bad considering Arcanishu had to buy Steel Splitters for his attack after the 2 Redeemers. This strategy didn't win the match because Arcanishu is a great player and didn't slip up anywhere, but it made it closer than it would be otherwise and had a chance of exceeding my expectations, compared to simply mirroring Redeemers, which I know is almost certainly a loss. Here's one of the most extreme examples of a player advantaged set that I could find. The combo of Wincer, Chronofilter, and Nevo is often a player 2 auto-win, because they have the line of going natural conduit and then Chronofilter and Blast Forge the turn after, and it's impossible to defend against it efficiently. Let's say you're player 1. You can't viably do a line like that first without sacrificing too much econ, and dying to your opponent simply buying Gauss Cannons. But if you do the same line second, you won't even be able to fire your Wincer because all of your drones will be dead from your opponent's Wincer. So what do you do as player 1? In this type of situation, I'll always try and do something so crazy that my opponent will never expect it, which gives me the best chance of winning by throwing him off. So let's take a look at what I came up with. My idea here was to hard counter a Wincer build as hard as I possibly could, hoping that he would try it anyway. This Chronofilter Hannibal rush line is inefficient, but it's something almost never seen in competitive matches, which can make it confusing and uncomfortable to play against. This prompted him to try the Wincer all in, and to be fair, it was a very close match, and he did break through to kill all my drones, but I just barely got there. Now, sometimes there's a combination of units that are so dominant over the rest that you won't be able to win if you do anything else or try to get them second. If you believe you're in this situation, the best option is to try and get it a turn before your opponent. The classic example of this is so common that it's been given a name: the Elliott Animus. Named after the head of Lunark after he showed everyone how well it can work in the right situation. It looks horribly inefficient because you're only on 8 drones and usually float 2 gold 2 turns in a row, from getting the Animus and then Grimbotches or Electivores. But the tempo you gain from it balances out the economic disadvantage, and makes for a fairly even match against P2's turn 2 Animus in the right sets. An early Animus in this set is desirable because there's no really efficient green or blue attackers. Blood Rager is super efficient against the big absorbers, and can further deny absorb later in the match when Doom Walls are on 1 lifespan, or when they have shredders. When your opponent starts putting on pressure, the red can be sold by perforators for either defense or more attack. The Elliott Animus works great in this set, but the kind of set where it shines the most is when there's something like Electivore, Grimbotch, Perforator, and no other efficient attackers or defenders.